All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the London is Blue podcast. Hopefully, your favorite Chelsea podcast out there, and a part of the Men in Blazers Media Network. Dan, alongside Nick. It's a bit of a double up on the podcast for this episode. Not only is a Copenhagen match review, Chelsea getting into the next round of the prestigious Europa
UECL.
Conference League. People have told me
Jake,
they don't like the UECL.
Jake,
They
hit
like
that
the
stinger
full name.
right now.
Okay.
Bring it in. Bam.
Anyway, we're going to talk about that. And we're also going to put
It's
in
my
the
favorite.
wonderful match preview that we've got going on for the Arsenal game this coming weekend. And so a bit of an abbreviated match review, considering when you don't have a single shot on target for 45 minutes in the first half, there's maybe not a whole lot to talk about from a sporting perspective, Nick.
I hope the faithful don't begrudge us a shorter match review for this one. I just what do you learn from a game like this? Not a ton. And look, I frankly think the Arsenal match on the weekend is the far more interesting bit of this pod now. So we are going to speed through the most important stuff and then pass it over to you and Sam. You're going to do a double feature in this one. It's going to be Inception.
Look, it's just awards season, so maybe something got lost in the mail here, but
Yeah.
who knows? A little double up, of course. Again, we're also doing that too because it's 14 days from date of recording until we're back over in London, hopefully to see the Chelsea men's team with a much better and more rousing performance at Stamford Bridge against Tottenham than what we saw from the TV in the broadcast feed in this one. We'll also be watching the Chelsea women's team play, and potentially, mathematically, it could be as early as that Sunday that they clinch the league, but a lot of things need to break their way, and I don't think it's going to happen, but
No.
I can dream, Nick. I can dream. But anyway, let's set the stage for the match review. We have some three-word match reviews. I tried to pick ones that I really thought would speak to you, Nick. So
Sure.
these are in honor of you, a three-word match review series.
Well, I feel just so honored for this. Mike Harmon with 8 from 8. We've won all 8 games in the UECL. Couldn't care less about the performance. Score one more than them. That's all that matters. Fair point. Fair point, Mike. PR O'Neill, 0 fun, sir. Remember the Titans reference there? Love that. Cody Flowers with honestly, whatever, sure. Fantastic. D Rudnick with KDH, crushing Danish hopes. Fair. Kyle Marshall with do the do. Kieran Dewsbury Hall getting some love. Shane, oh my God, it's Shane back. That's wonderful. British Iniesta winner, boy, oh boy. And then Craig J with fucking love beige. And beige is in reference to what was a performance. Let's put it that way, Dan. What was yours?
A performance. Oh boy, April. We're going to talk about it in a little bit, but April now went from being a kind of comfortable month for this Chelsea team to being really, really difficult to get through. And
you could say when it rains, it pours. No, nobody.
No.
Okay.
No, but just give me your three-word match review and we'll get to the next part.
No easy wins. There's no easy wins the rest of the season. This is all going to be tough. And frankly, we know what this time of year is, guys. Like, if you expected to blow these guys away, no easy wins. You just got to gut them out.
Yeah, one of the better teams remaining in the Conference League. And again, like we know it is the lowest of the tier of European competition at the moment, but you have to play the team in front of you and you have to try to show up on the day. And again, was Copenhagen this past Thursday, March 13th in the Conference League at Stamford Bridge. 1-0 scoreline on the day, aggregate 3-1. And it was everybody's pick, Dewsbury Hall, with the absolute stunner. The way he maneuvered through. I mean, someone was jokingly making the comparison to the Eden Hazard Coquelin spin goal. Nowhere near on the same level. Like those are just, one is a moon and the other is like Saturn. But, in terms of like just gravitational pull. But it was good. It was a really good word go. I hats off to Kieran.
It was a nice Cole Palmer impression with a nice little finish on the end. And look, we have begrudged this signing largely because of what it meant on the outs. It's not his fault that the club made this signing. I would love to see him perform a little bit better. And I think he was, by and large, this might have been his best game in a Chelsea shirt, frankly. But it was certainly his best moment in a Chelsea shirt, and so I'm happy for him. I mean, we've seen players have slow starts before. I don't believe that he's going to be an all-star for us, but if he can be critical in the UECL when we need to spell your Cole Palmers and such, then that would be just wonderful for me this season. So hats off.
He did have an 8.0 on SofaScore. He was the highest rated player on the day. And I guess in a game where it's a 1-0 and it was one shot that made the difference, you're probably going to be pretty high up on the chart there. Jorgensen was between the sticks. We saw Trev, Tosin, Benoit, and Josh as our back line, Caicedo and Enzo in the midfield, Sancho, Dewsbury Hall, and Tyreek ending up in attack behind Pedro Neto. And there was a bunch of halftime subs. You had two halftime subs. You had a 65th minute sub and a 79th minute sub. And those were Kukurea, Palmer, Nkunku, James. And then Genesis getting his debut there as well at the very, very end for Pedro Neto. Potentially could have happened like 5 minutes earlier, 10
Of
minutes
course,
earlier.
I mean, I don't begrudge a sub when it's only 1-0, but yeah, I mean, I would have loved to see a better performance and him get some real minutes, but obviously that did not happen today.
Yeah, we know that Reggie Walsh made the bench as well. That would have been a very quick rise into a debut appearance, one bench to one sub appearance. But that would have been really cool too.
People,
Obviously, we saw Shim in the last game.
people were making the joke that Kira Walsh was out of Sunday's League Cup final because she was starting on the bench for the men's team today. That was fun.
And then just the top line stats. So it was a 1.13 XG to the 0.97. Two big chances apiece, 11 shots for us, 10 for them. One goalkeeper save for us for 4 for them. And then as you kind of go down the list here, the one random stat from our good friend Sam, we'll hear from later. Chelsea have managed back to back clean sheets for the first time in 2025. The last occasion was 21 matches ago.
Ugh, gross.
Heidenheim and Aston Villa back to back clean sheets. Been a minute, Nick. Feels good.
What? Yeah. What if though? I mean, just think about this: the Heidenheim
We
Villa
have
thing.
hotels attached to Stamford Bridge. We should know a thing or two about clean sheets.
What if the Conference League is the like catalyst for this season? What if it's like we start playing better, not better? What if we just start playing winning football again because the Conference League is a little bit of a trigger? I don't know. We'll see.
And then we always have a shithouse moment in the match, particularly when there's a win. Did you have one in this game? I think there was one that I'm mentally thinking about.
There are two. I will let you go on the second one, but my first one was the Kukurea
I was going to go
incident
with,
in the
yeah.
box. Yeah, so he ends up getting a yellow card, and then because he's like the guy right in front of the goalkeeper, right? So Jorgensen's trying to push him and the offensive player out, and so we're just kind of like bunched up there, and then he does the perfect dive and gets the foul called and runs it like over the crowd. It's just awesome. Very, very good. Very shit house. And then very dumb Tosin Adarabioyo with the late time wasting after the ref had
Yeah.
kind of already done the watch thing. It was shit house and very stupid. So, yes.
Well, that is interesting. We're gonna take a quick ad break, get it out of the way, and then come back. We're talking about like, does it actually matter how we advance? And this was a very dividing conversation after what is Chelsea advancing because we saw two halves of football that were suspect to say the least. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, so Enzo Maresca speaking to TNT Sport after the game, talking about how the club has always won trophies. We want to give the fan and club important titles. So it's about like a 2-minute little spot he did after the game because there was not like an official press conference for reasons. And it kind of opened up this conversation, Nick, that we've now played in the Conference League. We've seen some pretty poor trend line football. Like we're seeing some of the same patterns repeat, repeat, repeat. We know there's injury problems. We know the squad wasn't refreshed appropriately. we can point to a lot of reasons, but you also have a controllable factor in how does the manager set them up? How does the team
Mhm.
play? We saw in the dying minutes of the first half sideways passes, knowing that you had a, a couple minutes to try and do something and not pressing the ball forward, not trying to be more intense, not trying to really gamble in any way, shape, or form. And you might be able to say, like, look, we're 2-1 up. Like, we have the lead, we have the power, we can sit back, we can frustrate them if we want. And so, if we're talking about it, is how how good does the result have to be that the actual performance doesn't matter? Because I think that's the kind of conversation. And the only thing I can kind of point back to now is maybe this felt a little like the sorry season, where some of the football was really, really challenging to watch. Now, the end result is a Europa League win
Yep. Yep.
and a return back into Champions League football. So you could argue the process worked. It wasn't pretty. And
It was
so are we
tough.
seeing
Yeah.
the same type of thing where it's tough football and like the end result might not out appropriately, but we might not feel good watching a lot of this till the end of the year?
Yeah, I can accept that. I mean, I don't love what I'm watching right now. Let's just be very clear. Like it's not good football. The players are not performing at their maximum capabilities because we've seen what that looks like earlier in the season. Like we're not comparing this season over season. We're comparing this to ourselves in October, you know? Like it's not the same team. The players don't have the same confidence. But that's 4 wins in a row as well. And I'm a person that when you get to knockout football, tournament football, I don't really give a shit how you win. Like to me, winning is the only thing. Like I'd rather be Chelsea and advance than be Molda, who played really good football over 2 legs and not. Like I think there's a pretty clear divide there. And if you are, of the champions winning Chelsea mindset, then I think that is probably okay. Do I want to see us play better against teams that we should absolutely throttle? Yeah, I do. Like, let's just be very clear. Chelsea should walk this competition. It shouldn't be that hard. But I kind of go back to something we've talked about a little bit. I talked to Matt Law a little bit about this week, and that I know we've had conversations about this team has never won anything. They don't know what it's like. And I just got done watching Drive to Survive, this new season
Okay,
of
cool.
Drive to
Yeah.
Survive, and you could see that in Lando Norris a little bit, where like he's like, I think I can do it. I think I can do it. And then they win the constructors at the end, and you could see his like it's just like a light bulb went on, right? Because it was like, okay, this is now off my shoulders. Like we have done it, and I think I know what it takes now. And like that's kind of how I view this trophy is like get this one done, have a winning mentality, understand the grind that it takes to win stuff. I mean, we've grinded our way to trophies before. And at the end, if you're having the parade, it doesn't fucking matter, right? Do I want to see us play better, Dan? Of course, because one, it's a tough watch, but two, I do want to see this team go through a little bit of shit because I think it will make us better in the future, especially if we do make it to the Champions League, which is levels above this.
Yeah, I mean, we were not beating anybody with a 5 goal, 6 goal difference between the aggregate of 2 games. That is not who this team is currently. I'm in agreement with you. Like, I think that all these things can be true. We cannot be happy with football. We can think Maresca is maybe not at the level for what the next evolution of this team is going to be. If this team goes on, gets in the Champions League next season, has progressed maybe 1 or 2 players, like you could still have an honest conversation about like, could you upgrade on the manager in the next season? And it would be a very fair conversation to have, even though I know Ken you Matt talked about like some of the data modeling might be what the club leans into with how it's evaluating his performance. But if you watch some of it, you could argue that like we could be playing better football. And maybe that then comes down to, well, are the sporting directors effectively doing their job? Because have we staffed the personnel appropriately? Have we found ourselves in a position several times this season where we don't have a recognized striker playing up top? Yes, we do, because we don't have a backup to the backup. And the backup was recently playing as a part of the Barcelona academy structure. So like we are not equipped to be, I think, the most competitive version of a footballing team and organization that we can. At the end of the day, though, I'm still going to be over the moon as a supporter if players like Dewsbury Hall are showing up on the day and finding a way to make an involvement and score in the game. I'm going to be over the moon if a couple young academy players get an opportunity, and I'm going to be happy to celebrate the parade when Chelsea win this damn thing. Like all those things can be true, and I think people try to build it down to this binary of like, well, it's either terrible or it's great, and there's no semblance of a middle ground for it. And like we have to acknowledge that a middle exists within all this. It is both crap and not crap at the same time.
Yeah, look, you mentioned the sorry season earlier. Kind of, it's sticking in my head because at the end of that season, we were playing some damn good stuff. We had discovered a incredible talent in Ruben Loftus-Cheek who had kind of unlocked something that we didn't know that we had. Right, he completely changed the way that we were playing in that team. I mean, do you remember the Kovacic, Barkley, Jorginho midfield that basically did fuck all? And then we introduced Ruben Loftus Cheek into that midfield, and it was like, oh my God, like our whole team started scoring. Free flowing football started scoring goals, all this stuff. And of course, and Hazard was unbelievable, utterly fantastic, all that stuff. But like, this is what I want to see, if we are to win this trophy, which is far from guaranteed at this point, even though it should be, is I want to see your Kieran Dewsbury Halls improve match over match through the end of the season. I don't think that's too much to ask. I want to see Ty get a goal or two before the end of the season, right? I want to see Benoit Badiashile and Tosin Adarabioyo really, really comfortable and compact at the back. I want to see some of these role players, especially as we talk about who's coming back from injury and all that sort of stuff. I want to see them really fighting, because I've talked to Matt about the atmosphere at Stamford Bridge, and I think the crowd really does respond to Cucurella. It really does respond to Moises Caicedo. It responds to effort. Pedro Neto running around, chasing all sorts of lost causes because there might be a moment, right? Like, I want to see these guys put in full effort and hopefully improve the goal scoring, hopefully continue this clean sheet streak that we're starting. I just want to see improvement because by the end of that sorry season, we had improved. It took fucking forever, but like beating Arsenal 4-1 in a cup final, sign me up. That was awesome. I partied hard that day. So, I think the two seasons kind of are comparable, even if the competitions are like for like.
And then just thinking about ahead, like we're going to talk about April in a second here, but clearly the injuries that we've had are massive right now. I
Yeah.
mean, not having Nico Jackson, not having Nani Madueke. Obviously, we've just seen Wes Fofana come back in the team. We've missed, Reese. We're starting to kind of drip feed him into the team as well. If you could take any one of those like currently injured or not 100% fit players and magically restore them to full fitness for now through the end of the season, who's the guy you're going for?
All right. So I'm giving you 5 options. Okay.
Okay, well,
Is
I'm
that
asking for one, so
I
I'd
think
love
there
you to
are
narrow it down
5.
for me.
I think there are 5, and I think you could make a case for each one of these 5. Okay. Number 1, Wes Fofana. The team looks completely different when he plays at the back than it does in any other instance. So, just take that for what it is. Reece James, awfully thin in midfield. Would be lovely to have a healthy Reece James in midfield, wouldn't it? Great. Romeo Lavia, same problem. Uh, Nico Jackson, boy, do we need a striker. And I think people are going to be very excited when Nico makes the return to the lineup. And then, goddamn, if we don't get some production from the wings, I don't know what's going on with Sancho right now. I don't know, how we're, what the structure is to get some of these wingers scoring. But Madueke is easily the highest productive winger in that group and was playing well before he was injured. So it's actually not that easy of a choice. Like I think each one of them has their own merits. Like we've looked different with Lavia and the team previously than we did when he's been out. So I don't know how you feel. I think it's Nico Jackson for me, and I just think he does so much that makes this team run offensively.
I think it's not only Nico for what he does, but the way that he helps Cole as a partner.
Yeah,
That to me is the underline. I'm like, yes, we have found a way to patchwork our defense together. The midfield, it would be great to get somebody back and be a part of that. But if you're giving me one, give me healthy Nico between now and the end of the season. It allows you then to put Pedro Neto back on the wings in some capacity, which then allows you to refresh that grouping. I do think that that gives us a lot of variation to what we can be doing because our attack just hasn't looked good without him out, without him available. Thinking though ahead, Nick, this is the reason why I framed this question. April is ugly. Like capital U, capital G, capital L, capital Y. Ugly
you
now
ain't
that
got
we've
no
advanced.
alibi, Dan. That's what I'm talking about.
Well,
Let's
the
go.
schedule gods do not have an alibi for how bad they made this for us. Look, I guess it's the curse of being good and advancing in this competition, as you now have two extra matches in April that you weren't planning for, and so just to give you the run of it, you have Tottenham, you have Brentford, you have the game against Warsaw, you have Ipswich Town, you have Warsaw again, Fulham, and that's kind of your April 3rd through technically the 19th right now, but probably 20th because right now there's a 2-day gap between the Thursday to Saturday fixture that's
Yeah, that
likely
will
going
get
to get
moved.
moved for the Fulham game. And then you have Everton to round out the month. Like that is your April. Pretty disgusting. And as it stands, it's a 3-day gap, a 4-day gap, a 3-day gap, a 5-day gap, a 3-day gap, and then only one 6 to 7 day gap, depending upon what day you play. One game where we maybe have a full week to rest, recover, and prepare. Everything else is quick turn. And those first 4 games take place over 11 days. How does that make you feel?
Well, no, I feel good, Dan. Thanks for asking. I think it's going to be incredibly difficult. I mean, Spurs is going to be an emotional day, and you know that you always expend more effort in those games.
Just gonna will we're gonna will the team
I
forward. Our presence.
Hey, last time I watched a game at the Bridge, I stayed in the stadium bar to will our team to. I will do whatever it takes to make
Your
this come
commitment is
true.
noted and appreciated.
Yeah. Then 3 days later, Brentford, tricky. They fucking have our number. Like they're a tricky deal for us. The Warsaw games, I think, are pretty. They're okay, but I think Copenhagen's probably better than they are. Frankly, just my read. God, if you don't beat Ipswich, I, I just got nothing for you, man. You cannot let Delap run over our fucking center backs again, please, for the love of God. Fulham, I always have a terrible feeling about, and then Everton at home, and Everton have been playing a lot better under Moyes. That's before you get to Liverpool on May 3rd, and just God willing, they've won the league by that point, and are not full strength and are still licking their wounds from their terrible Champions League exit.
Ooh.
Idiots.
One of our
And
teams is still in Europe, the other is not.
yeah, I mean, technically. I think that this is going to be incredibly difficult. And I mean, it really just underscores the points that you need to get, right? Like again, Warsaw, 2 legs. All you have to do is score one more goal than them over 2 legs. You don't need to play perfect. Whatever. Like I would love for us to just dominate in the first leg at home and just put that to bed. Much like we did in Kazakhstan earlier this season. Just play the kids in the second leg. I think that'd be wonderful. Again, don't anticipate that, but man, you gotta have these winnable Premier League games in April. You absolutely have to. I mean, you got to beat Spurs. You got to beat Brentford. You got to beat Ipswich. you got to get something out of Fulham and Everton, and just hope that carries you over the line enough to kind of last through what is an insane last stretch of the season.
Now, I mean, we know that, Caicedo will have made it into this weekend to play against Arsenal, though if he picks up a yellow card, he will not be available for the Brentford game and the
It's
Tottenham
on him.
game,
Yeah.
which could be huge. So Lavia, get ready. Reece James, please don't overextend during international duty. You're facing an uphill battle in this. I mean, really, I think what Maresca will have to be looking forward to is how early is Nico available? How much can he play? Like, what's the prognosis for Tottenham or Brentford, and how much can he contribute across those games? How soon is Madueke going to be back involved? How soon will Giu be available? Can West sustain his fitness for into that run of fixtures? Because again, you mentioned it earlier, different level of comp when he's in the lineup and what he adds to the defense versus who we've been selecting. So there are a lot of things that hopefully will trend in the right direction for him. Maybe just like any one younger player talent that you might be looking at across that like set of games where it's like, hey, this would be a guy to go to. Like, I mean, we've seen a couple. We've seen obviously Tyreek has gotten a little bit more opportunity. Josh obviously had a chance to start in this one, got the halftime yank though. Like, are you potentially looking at someone across this set of fixtures, not of those returning, that you would point to as like a hey, that Maresca could really lean on this player and get some value?
It does feel like Ty's time right now. I think when assessing his game against Jaden Sancho's over the last couple of months, he just looks more dangerous and interested, and I don't know why that is. Because if I were Jaden Sancho, I'd be desperate to play in the big Premier League games and not against Warsaw. But it does feel like it's going to be Ty and Jaden in those Champions League, or the not Champions League, the UECL games, and it's going to be some combination of maybe Madueke, Neto, Nico and Kunku, sort of vibes for the other ones. And, it also is kind of illustrated for me just how bad of a fit in Kunku is in this team over the last couple of months. Just doesn't seem to have like a home positionally. So yeah, if I'm Ty George, I'm looking at these Warsaw matches as like, if I'm not starting and contributing, I'm gonna be pissed. I think he has the opportunity, and like I think he has a real chance to take a step up and prove that he is indispensable. You know, even if Mudrik comes back at some point, it doesn't matter. I'm playing great, and I'm dangerous, and I'm effective, and I'm slowing the game down a little bit, and I'm not making rash decisions. Like, especially if he gets time up top again, just because you're going to need to rest Nico. He's just coming off an injury. He's not going to play all 7 games in April, right? Maybe
That's
he
what you
does.
think.
Yeah. Well, there I go thinking again. Then.
Well, I mean, the thing is, no one should be playing every 90 across those 7 outside of potentially a goalkeeper, but we don't trust that there are goalkeepers to be the true number 1 or 2, so that's not going to happen either. If they are playing full 90s, they are superhuman or being ground down to nothing because of how quick some of those turns are. So it will be critical to see how Maresca balances the side. I do want to, before we get to the match preview that Sam and I did, to take a look at the weekend with Arsenal. Just how are you feeling now? We know who our opponent is in Warsaw. We know who else has made it to the quarterfinals. How are you feeling about the bracket? Because we got a bracket going on here, Nick.
I love a good bracket. It is March, and March is the time for brackets. I feel pretty good. I mean, it's not surprising to me that Fiorentina and Betis advanced. I called that last week. They will almost certainly play um,
The
in the
semifinal.
yeah in the semis. I believe that we will end up playing Rapid in the semis, and that we will face Real Betis in the final.
Ooh.
Um, and
Okay.
that would be a pretty decent final. That'd be all right. They play decent football. They're doing all right in La Liga. So, that wouldn't be the easiest final, but yeah, almost certainly one of Real Betis and Fiorentina or Fiorentina would make it through.
Well, that's going to do it for our little expedited match review here.
We did
And
it.
we're going to hand it over to Sam and myself to talk you through this weekend's fixture against Arsenal. A huge 3 points
God,
up for
beat those
grabs.
fuckers. Beat them. Come on.
Beat or at minimum draw, because drawing them right now just to aggravate that fan base just as good
So I can do the.
as a win. But we really want the 3 points. The 3 points would be great as now Europe, you're in European competition after all these results have kind of been
Mhm.
tabulated. England now has a confirmed top two finish and coefficient, which means the fifth Champions League space is confirmed. So a top five finish gets you into the Champions League. So we've increased the margin for error. So please take advantage of every opportunity, Chelsea. But that's going to do it for this one. We've done our match review. We're going to hand you over the match preview. And until next time, finish listening to this. All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another match preview on the London is Blue podcast channel. We're talking about Arsenal Football Club this weekend. A huge test for Chelsea, a huge test for Maresca, and a massive opportunity for the Chelsea players to get the team behind them for this one. A massive 3 points in Chelsea's potential, hopeful, desired end state of the season to be back in the top 4 5, to solidify that role, to be in the Champions League, where Arsenal are just having fun playing around at this point with PSV and their aggregate 9-3 finish to advance in the competition. We would like to be back there. We'd like to get the business done this weekend. They did play a very, as Sam will point out in this preview, B squad in that match. But in our match previews, we talk about what's going on with the team that we're playing against. We take a little bit of a look at what the strengths and weaknesses are relative to their style of play. And then we'll flip it around. We'll answer a couple questions on what we might expect from Maresca, from the team, from the lineups, and then make some final predictions. But Sam, heading into this one, your confidence rating, Chelsea versus Arsenal at this point in the season, with the trajectory that these two teams have, what's your feeling heading into this one?
Yeah, and it's been quite intriguing for me because most of the season I've been less optimistic in terms of what our fate is, but this time around everybody's talking about how Arsenal are going to paste us, and I feel a lot more optimistic. I've watched them play, and I believe these are two sides that have very similar issues in terms of what has really pulled them down in the past 6, 7 games. So I do believe they're there for the taking. I think maybe a win at the Emirates might be a stretch, but you definitely can walk away with a very important point if your game plan, your strategy are all on point. So it's going to be a huge, monumental game. Obviously, you have nothing to lose. Everybody expects us to go to the Emirates and not do anything at all. But if you come away with a win, then I believe it changes complete outlook for the next 9 games after that, and you can finish strongly. So that's my look on it. You can definitely take a point away, even something more.
And a huge opportunity because this again the last match that senior men's team will play before the international break and before they return in the league against Tottenham. So if it's a loss and a bad loss, it will sting for a longer point of time. And no international break will absolutely wipe away the feeling of a loss to Arsenal. I mean, it's been a minute since we've won against them, Sam, and we have to go back to the 22nd of August, 2021, for that 2-0 win in the Premier League at the Emirates in that one. And I would like to kind of go back to those days. I mean, it was the Lukaku and Reece James goal under Thomas Tuchel. And since then, it's been a loss 4-2, a loss 1-0, a loss 3-1, a 2-2 draw, a 5-0 loss that we will just try to banish into our history banks, and then a 1-1 draw most recently. So at least if we're saying an improvement from last season, I mean, 2 draws would be a better place to be against Arsenal this season. But boy, oh boy, a win at the Emirates, first time since 2021, that would be monumental for Maresca.
I mean, we almost pulled it off last season. If it weren't for like a Rob Sanchez howler, we would have walked away with a 2-1 win.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, you need a win away or home. At least if you can pull it off under ideal circumstances, you at least banish away that voodoo feeling that you have against your bogey side. So yeah, I do believe that you require a very good result against Arsenal, more or less, like in the next, um, this complete fixture, or if we face them sometime, in a big competition next season, say the UCL or something, you genuinely need to banish those ghosts away and exercise them for the good. So, but um, yeah, luckily Arsenal don't have pedigree of reaching big competition finals. So yeah, I'm hoping that it starts from here, where we go out there, we make a statement. It's a side that's also struggling in many respects, um, and you essentially go and play without fear, because this is the one game where you can behave like an underdog, and you can go and play your own strategy in terms of how you want to put everything out. So I'm hoping that we have a very strong, watertight game plan for this one, and the good thing is you can pinpoint exactly where those weaknesses are.
Yeah, and just to be able to recap beyond the results in the Champions League, there was that 1-1 draw in the weekend against Man United. There was the 0-0 draw against Forest. There was the 1-0 loss to West Ham. Like, the recent results have not been as ideal as Arsenal would look like. They would hopefully look at this match in their mind, or they're hopefully looking at it as an opportunity to get back, get right in the league, and try, hope, dream, aspire that Liverpool is just going to give up playing football and let them walk back into the title conversation. We know that's not happening, but that's the type of disbelief we expect from Arsenal fans. And then on the flip side, we look at it as an opportunity to really change the fortune of the season for us. But when you talk about a team that is struggling, they are struggling with some significant injuries, particularly in attack. Gabriel Jesus, Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, all not going to be available for this one. And so that does change a little bit of what Arteta has to kind of think about. So why don't we jump into the points that you want to make just around some of the style of play that they have adopted and maybe things that have changed since we played them back in November?
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the form. I think that's the big concern for them. They've got, if you count last night, then 3 wins in the last seven. After a pretty injury-ravaged season, we've seen them fall off the pace of the top with Liverpool. And on the weekend, Mikel Arteta was asked about the title race, and he essentially stormed off. So it just felt like, he's given up because of the points total. Liverpool are out of the Champions League, so they have nowhere else to set their sights, which is good. So, it's essentially now Arsenal trying to reclaim the fact and solidify their Champions League credentials. That's the best thing that they can do at this point. In terms of the tactical acumen, they've essentially stuck to the same plan. It was a 4-4-2 sparingly in between, like they played a 4-4-2 in uh, continental competition in the Champions League against Inter, tried to play Kai Havertz and Leon Trossard or Gabriel Jesus, so like a two center forward sort of setup to bring out the best in both. And now, because of the injuries that you mentioned, they've moved to their conventional 4-3-3, and that's, I think, primarily because of the lack of center forwards, and that's seen them prioritize 4-3-3 with Mikel Merino, who's a midfielder, but he's playing right now a very fluid center forward role, where he'll drop away from the center, he'll try and overload the midfield and add some bodies in there, and the center forward spot is usually vacant, and that is filled by Declan Rice making a run, sometimes even Ricardo Calafiori ending up there, Martin Odegaard ends up there. So it's just a very false nine kind of setup where the midfield is packed and different players come and arrive in the center. When we talk about Arsenal out of possession, I do believe they are an extremely good side, just resilient, built to win a lot of duels centrally. You've got two very good centre backs with a great partnership dynamic between them in Saliba and Gabriel. They're essentially able to hold a very high line. They offer recoveries high up the pitch, and they've also got the pace to recover going back when needed. In possession, when you look at them, it's a 2-3-5. You see fluid rotations on either side, and so you'll have both your centre backs and then Thomas Partey, who plays as the deepest midfielder. And then you've got Declan Rice and you've got Martin Odegaard offering rotations on either side. So you will see, the fullback coming in. So, for example, both their fullbacks are able to invert, which is quite interesting. and you'll see, the defensive pivot go out. You'll see Odegaard come in. You'll see all these kind of rotations, which makes it very, very hard to mark. And that's, I think, part of their issue. So if you look at Forest, for example, I was watching their game when Ricardo Calafiori from left back was pushing into a midfield position, like a left attacking midfield position, something that we've seen Kukureya do for us against Bournemouth earlier in the season. And what that did was to follow him, Ola Aina kept drifting centrally, and that isolated Leandro Trossard on the left-hand side. And Callum Hudson-Odoi actually made some very, very good recovery runs, like two runs where he prevented, big chance from happening because he intercepted a through ball in behind. So in this game, if Calafiori is playing on the left-hand side, I expect whoever it is on the right wing to have a very, very tough time going backwards because you will have to do a lot of defending. So it's something that Maresca will have to think very, very hard about. The midfield then we know is excellent from a defensive standpoint. You've got Partey and Rice, which is a strong defensive pivot. It's also got a lot of mobility, a lot of strength in midfield. Rice in particular will move into the box for headers. And Merino is also somebody who will try and offer that kind of strength because he's excellent in the air. And I should add that the left side for me looks a lot more dangerous, even though with Saka, Arsenal are the side that offers the highest percentage of their attacks coming down the right hand side in the Premier League with 44%. It's the left-hand side that offers a lot more dynamism, a lot more of the rotations that you need to be very careful about. So Odegaard will offer the same rotations on the right-hand side with Ethan Nwaneri, who's come in place of Bukayo Saka, who's also a very good player. You'll see them, try and interchange, get into the box. Odegaard is very, very wily in a sense. He will try and pick passes for Nwaneri into the box. He will drift wide. He will come centrally. He will move to the left flank. So he's afforded the kind of freedom that you would expect from a chief creator, something like, a Cole Palmer would get in our side. So that's what makes Arsenal very, very difficult to play against.
And then, I do think if we think just maybe a little bit about the maturation of these two sides and where Arsenal is further along in their journey, have a little bit more stability from a managerial position, which they would argue potentially good or not good, considering what they have and haven't won under Mikel Arteta. It does feel as if they are drilled to win the ball back, to defend very well. I think they're a little bit more dangerous than we are from a set piece position. And they do have some intensity that maybe in the past couple games we have not seen Chelsea always have the same hurried nature to track down individuals with the ball, to try to force a turnover, to really play in a more aggressive style. And that is something that Arsenal, even injury laden at the moment, is capable of doing probably in a better way, shape, or form than the Chelsea team is.
Yeah, I agree. And, aspects like pressing start from the front. And we all know that Cole Palmer, when he's super fit, when he's super confident, you can see him do those duties for you to a T. He presses well. He's got a supremely good knack of intercepting balls into dangerous areas. Haven't really seen it from him because it does look like he is a little worn out. And I hope that that improves, post the international break where he goes away, has a little time to disconnect, maybe recharge his batteries and then come back. But yeah, Arsenal in general are a side that is designed from an industry perspective to press well, to press extremely hard. They will defend centrally. So when they go in their 4-4-2, for example, Odegaard is going to lead the press. He's going to try and exploit any uncertainty with Rob Sanchez or Philip Jorgensen, whoever it is in the goalkeeping positions. They will press your goalkeeper very, very hard, and they will press your centre backs to try and get some change out of it. Obviously, when you're completely confident in your ability to play out from the back, then that becomes an asset because you can then bypass their press. And the moment you force Rice and Partey to come out and press is when you um, sort of open up their defense to all sorts of issues. But it's just the kind of intensity or what the strategy even will be against Arsenal then, because we've seen the last couple of games, West Ham, for example, Nottingham Forest. It's something that we'll talk about in the weaknesses. There is a particular way to frustrate them, And that's something that you can do it, but it's not in our ethos to do it, which is the dilemma Maraska will be going through. But a couple of other strengths on Dan Jan, just everybody knows that they're excellent at set pieces. So haven't been on the top this season. I think they slipped to fourth or fifth, but they have excellent variations, a lot of variety in terms of what they can pull out at any point in time. So they will be looking to isolate any weaknesses individually or from a collective standpoint during attacking set pieces. Defensively, curiously, they've conceded a lot more than they usually would. They've, I think, conceded eight, and two of those are direct free kicks. So maybe there's a chance to do a little bit of damage from your own set pieces. But at least when you're defending theirs, then you have to be very, very careful. And yeah, like I mentioned, I think it's the intensity that you have to go with and figure out how much of risk are you willing to take in this fixture, and how do they look if the game wears on and they haven't scored, say, after the hour mark, because the Emirates will get a little finicky if that happens.
You do need to at least try to now help paint a picture for us wonderful Chelsea supporters, the best in the bunch, the best in the business. What are the ways that Maresca and team, what are the things from a weaknesses standpoint that this Arsenal team is able to be or are able to be exploited effectively by this team? I think there are things like we talked about the injuries. I mean, obviously, Saka and Havertz being out is huge. I mean, you mentioned the fact that it sounds like there's some similarities in the struggles that they're going through at the moment, and like they don't have a perfect type of squad makeup either. So I do think maybe we can paint some positive notes for people as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, you mentioned the injuries. I think we'll start from there. So Bukayo Saka and Kai Havertz, both of them have contributed 28% of Arsenal's goals this season and 38.4% of their assists in the league. So those are huge hits from two guys in attack. So um, a lot of their troubles now in recent times have been when they've struggled to break down opponents due to no fit centre forwards. They've scored before, if you put the PSV game aside, they scored three goals in the last four league games, and they failed to score in two of them against West Ham. One of them, who obviously been pretty bad, but some Graham Potter magic in there. So I think scoring has been an issue. Where the goals are going to come from has been an issue. Martin Odegaard hasn't been good either in terms of being consistent enough with his creative output. Has come under a lot of criticism from even Arsenal fans. So maybe they are struggling. If you look at the similarities, chief creator struggling, no fit center forwards. That's very very the Chelsea story lately. We've talked about how they have struggled in other similar ways from us in a tactical perspective. So Saka out, Martinelli injured. Up until like I think last game, he was back on the bench for PSV. But you look at just how that affects the way that you want to play. Usually, Arsenal will try and crowd the center, and then they'll open up the flanks for Martinelli or Saka. It's very, very similar to what Maresca tries to do for his wingers, where you want to come centrally, then open up those flanks and offer 1v1s. And because they haven't really got those 1v1 wingers, and Ranieri is not a 1v1 winger, he's a very crafty um, forward who's able to offer you very different things. But on the left-hand side, somebody like a Leandro Trossard, I think, offers a lot more with his movement or a lot more without the ball, where he ends up in great positions and scores. But he's not somebody who take people on and offer those kind of issues. So that's something that I think has hurt them to not be able to create inroads from wide areas, and obviously not having a center forward in there to cause a lot of damage. We talked about a strategy that works against them, Dan. It's that Nottingham Forest and Man United both started with different formations, but both went into some variation of a back five. So United was obviously they started with a back three, and it was easy for them to go there and crowd the last line. But Nottingham Forest is quite interesting because they usually go a back three or back five in these situations. And, Espirito Santo was asked post the game, we expected you to go to a back five. Why did you go with a back four? And he essentially said, because Arsenal have no strikers. So we knew that the overload was going to be in midfield. So we wanted an extra body in midfield. So they went to 4-2-3-1. But Dominguez, who plays as a pivot, usually slotted into the last line to make it a back five in very low block situations. And then Morgan Gibbs White, who plays as the number 10, would slot into midfield and make it a very, very compact 5-4-1. Forest are just brilliant to watch from a defensive perspective. Their lines were, I think, almost 20, 22 yards apart, all three of them at the edge of their box. So just extremely frustrating playing against them. Try and make any kind of inroads because you have, center backs covering for each other. You have midfielders so close together. So going into that compact low block where you can frustrate them works against them. They didn't manage a single shot on target against Nottingham Forest for the first half, which tells you the story. So that's something that I would earmark as a possible fix. The third one, I would say Ricardo Calafiori can be exploited defensively. You look at his positioning, like he pushes up in the box during sustained spells of possession. Then he leaves the left flank. He is vulnerable to quick transitions. So, when I was looking at the Forest game, he was essentially in a like 1v1 with Callum Hudson-Odoi in the third minute, and he ended up getting a yellow card. And after that, he nearly conceded a penalty from a different situation. So yeah, it was just a little bit of a all over the place kind of performance. But because of his tactical responsibilities, duties, you can exploit him. You can definitely run in those areas, and if your right winger can get in the right places, you can cause a lot of damage. And the last one I'd probably say is like a tendency. I think that comes from anxiety. It's the fact that they're getting a lot more aggressive with their high line. And if they don't feel like the game is going their way, then they tend to sort of and um, push their line even further up to try and create some kind of issue, which leaves them very threadbare at the back. So watch out for that. If they do have like possession, if you allow them to have sustained possession, then you're able to offer them, a really nice ball over the top, Saliba or Gabriel, and then get in behind. So that might be a nice strategy to follow.
All right. So this is the part where we kind of talk about maybe some of the considerations that Maresca is going to have to make heading into the game, particularly with the lineup, considering that we will have just played a few days prior match against Copenhagen. Hopefully, recording this before then, we have convincingly punched our ticket into the Europa Conference League. If we haven't, I'll just get Jake to edit this out and we'll just advance and pretend I never had this part of the conversation. That would be doom and gloom. So, Sam, flipping the script here, what are some questions or what are the things that you're thinking about as terms of top questions that Maresca is going to have to answer? And I'll try to give a response in his stead.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, a little tactical focused because it all depends on strategy. So if you're Maresca, Dan, how are you looking at this game? Are you going out to say, okay, probably not going to score very often because you don't have quick attackers, you don't have, your usual firepower. So is it all out in the Emirates where you go out and try to get that first goal, or is it more of the long game where you sit back, where you absorb pressure and try to find that vital opener and then figure out if you can run away with it?
I I definitely feel like it's going to be more passive. And maybe that is just a more down view on how we've kind of come out in games, how we've tended to approach them, maybe where some of the fitness of these players are at this point in time. Again, we're not sure at time of recording who has or hasn't played in the conference league match and how fresh or not fresh they will be heading into this match. But imagine someone like Pedro Neto, if he has played in both games, will have maybe a little tired. We know that Cole Palmer is not 100 at the moment. Reece James is, someone that we're always going to have a question about related to fitness. And so I do think it's going to be more cautious to start from like, hey, how does that actually then line up? I mean, we've seen some, back threes in at least when we've had possession in a couple of the recent matches. Like I actually, you kind of talking about the way that Forrest went with it, with the you know transitioning to like a 5-4-1 and really just trying to overload and be a little bit more competitive, particularly with the threat that Moises Caicedo picks up a yellow card and then is banned for the next 2 games due to card accumulation. Lavia, I mean, has been on the bench, so he potentially could be available as well. Like to rotate in at some point. So I do feel as if maybe Maresca has a few more options, not a ton, and not necessarily an attack, but ways that he could potentially set up that back five, try to make it a little bit more difficult for Arsenal to find a path forward, frustrate them, and for us then to just pick our battles to find a moment. And I worry that that is not the type of game that these players, where they're at in the season, with how some of the performances have been, with some of the individual mistakes, are capable of necessarily executing. So maybe the return question to you is: do you agree, or do you have a different view on how you think Maresca will set up? And maybe just to the trying to hold the ball to wait for opportunity. Are you comfortable or confident that this Chelsea team can actually execute against a game plan like that right now?
Yeah, that's I think the key question in this game, because you do know that there's something that does work against Arsenal in their current predicament. And do you want to lean towards it because you haven't really played something similar? The closest that we've come to Maresca doing something like that is, he's played, say, Malo Gusto like further forward. And when you pull him back, then it becomes sort of like a back five out of possession because Gusto is so deep from that winger position. So that would have been one fix, but I think Gusto won't be available for this one. That would be interesting to see if he is, and if he is, then does he end up starting at right wing, for example, and then Sancho moves to the left, um, just to sort of make that out of possession structure a little more solid. The other thing that you could possibly do is if you do start Reece James in midfield next to Moises Caicedo, and then you push, say, Enzo Fernandez up in the number 10 spot and you move Palmer right wing, that is an alternate fix where if you ask Reece James to drop deeper and essentially become like a part of that back five, then you can ask Cole Palmer to be in that 5-4-1 and defend deep. Do you want him to do those duties? Your best attacking player to be, in a little deeper and sort of try and figure out if you can hold Arsenal for that amount of time is a completely different discussion altogether. But those are the two ways that I would see Maresca going into that shape if that option is available to him and if he feels like the team can execute it. But if he wants to play the regular way in terms of going a certain back four out of possession and relying on the quicker players to create openings, obviously Palmer not having to come either wide or centrally in those defensively intensive positions where he's burning himself out defensive work. That would be, I think, quite the issue. You would rather that he's up front, closer to Pedro Neto, closer to the other guys, trying to make all kinds of inroads. That's where you want Cole Palmer to be. So I think that's the big question for me. If he does go, I'll be pleasantly surprised because that works against Arsenal and probably would offer you a great route to keep a very rare clean sheet against the top side. And that would be a huge boost from every perspective. We've got West Fofana back also, so maybe something to think about.
Ooh, well then I guess that takes us to what the potential predictions might be then for this one. Are you going to predict the rare clean sheet then for this team, this side?
Look, I'm optimistic, but I wouldn't go that far. I would probably say like a low scoring draw would be a very strong prediction for me. I'd probably say like 1-1 would be on the cards. For all the criticism that I've made of Maresca and all the doubts that I have in my head in terms of everything that I've seen, we have done a good job, even in this very, very tough run of like the last 12, 13 games, but we haven't won as many games as we should. He has focused on that, like the slow, measured kind of play where you're asking players to get into positions and being a lot more organized at the back. It is nullifying the kind of attacks, the quality of attacks that you come up against. Or a lot of
Mhm.
our issues have come from individual mistakes, and we've inched past the 40 mark, which is a huge, huge issue. Like the last season, we were at I think I don't remember somewhere around 30, and we've gone past 40. So it's a lot of individual errors, goalkeepers not helping ourselves. So that's been the major problem for me. But I think overall, from a defensive standpoint, because the stability is there, because you are a lot more in control of how you lose the ball, where you lose the ball. You can expect side to be a little more solid and have a little more control over chaos, which is very, very important. So I do see like a low scoring 1-1. Like that would be my prediction.
Ooh, yeah, I potentially was gonna go with the 1-1 as well. I don't know.
Mhm.
I do feel as if maybe this is the opportunity for Chaos Chelsea to pop up and to do something a little dangerous, to be a little reckless, but walk away with a win, a contentious one. Like, I don't know if it's a penalty that gets awarded that puts Cole Palmer back in a scoring position and, can reboot his form heading into the international break. So maybe I'm going to do with that. I'm going to go with a 1-0 victory, Cole Palmer penalty that restores our
Mhm.
fortunes, and Jaden Sancho draws the penalty again, with
Wow.
his movement into the box. So that's I'm gonna go and give you who earns the penalty, who converts it, and what the score line is as my on the ledge prediction.
Nice. That's really good. I do think Pedro Neto is something the Arsenal fans fear as an entity. So I do believe something will come from Pedro Neto. I don't know whether it's going to be an assist or if he earns a penalty, but would probably earmark him as a key threat in those forward areas. So probably 1-1 for me as well, Dan. We've been pretty good starting games. Like I think we've scored 20 goals this season in the league in the first 30 minutes of games, and you usually don't have any other 15-minute windows where we've scored more than in the first 30 minutes. So 1 to 15 and then 16 to 30. So if you do start fast and you do start strong and get that goal, I think Arsenal are in all sorts of pressure. They will try and push their people up. We will see Rice getting into the box. You will see Partey pushing up. You will see Saliba and Gabriel basically pushing their line beyond the halfway line and getting into reckless areas. That's when you create those opportunities for Palmer and Neto. So get the first goal, and if reckless Chelsea do turn up, there's every chance you get something out of it because Arsenal just look like they've run out of ideas to score. So, and it's the same for us. It's just hopefully for this game with the quality that we have, it actually turns up and we end up creating a huge dent and obviously lifting ourselves to a great point in the season.
All right, anyway, you heard now a match preview for the Arsenal match this weekend. You've heard the match review. Look, Chelsea fans, it's just time to get it done.
Come on.
All right.
You got to beat them. God, if you beat them, that would just be the sweetest. It'd be unbelievable, and it would give you so much confidence going into Spurs. I mean, God.
We love to ride that energy into London. We love to see Arsenal fans sad that any mathematical possibility of a late title challenge against this Liverpool team, banking on a catastrophic collapse, is impossible. It would be so, so nice. So that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for supporting the podcast. And until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.